Good morning, everyone. I'm White Collar Carl, and I learned the hard way so you don't have to. So the video I wanted to do today was picking up where I left off with my last one. And at that point, I was currently in the quarantine unit at the maximum security prison, of which I was designated to go to the minimum security camp at. So, as I mentioned in my first blog, I had to first do 3 weeks of quarantine in the maximum security prison until I was cleared to go into the minimum security camp. So unfortunately, I was put with maximum security inmates, most of which were being transferred to either halfway houses or home or wherever, or being transferred to another prison, or ones that were actually were just coming into the prison. So although I was in the maximum security prison, I was in the cell by myself, and the only time I really had any interaction with the other inmates was when we had to be taken out for our showers, which even then we were handcuffed from our cell to the shower stall, we were also locked in individually into these shower stalls, because that's how they do it. I'm not sure if they do it in the whole maximum security prison, but that's how they do it in that quarantine unit. So I didn't feel I was in any danger or it was unsafe, but something definitely could have jumped off if something really wanted to, but what I wanted to go over today in today's video was how I actually ended up in the SHU, which was the Segregated Housing Unit in the maximum security prison, aka the hole. So at this point, it had been about 18 days since I had self-surrendered, and the prison had actually been put under lockdown because COVID resurgence in the prison. It was spreading like a wildfire, and they were having multiple cases, not only within the inmates, but also in the staff, the corrections officers, which obviously is where the infections were coming from, because the inmates weren't going anywhere. So the COs that were going back out into the community were obviously bringing it back into the prison, which, didn't make any sense, because, you would think that they would be the ones wearing them. Not that the masks do anything, but you would think that they would be wearing masks. None of them were. Gloves, nothing. So that's why, we continue to have this issue. This was late 2020. So, definitely not, COVID was not even close to being over with. It was still, very prevalent in the community. And it was actually just really starting to take off in the prisons, because up until then, there was a lot of prisons that were staying relatively, I guess you could say, clean. They didn't have a lot of infections, specifically the one that I was at, which was, this maximum security prison in Pennsylvania. But, a couple weeks after I got there, cases started rising dramatically. So they put the prison under lockdown, which meant, no one left their cells. As I mentioned before, I think in my previous blog, this meant that the inmates that worked in the kitchen couldn't go to the kitchen to make meals. So no hot meals, which meant bologna and cheese sandwiches every day, along with our, cold breakfast and cold lunch, which was also bologna. So, needless to say, I'll never eat bologna again in my life. So, what happened on the 18th day of my quarantine was the nurse that normally comes around to give me my medicine came to my cell and said, hey, I don't have your medication. I'm going to finish doing my rounds and I'll come back and bring it to you. I forgot to grab it. All right, no problem. And the type of medication I take, if I don't take it, I get sick. So a couple hours go by, or an hour goes by, and she still hasn't come back. I'm like, all right, she had to do a round. It's going to take a while. 2 hours go by. It's now 6, 7 o'clock. And I get started getting nervous. I'm like, maybe she probably forgot. It's not good. So I tell the CO. He said, all right, I'll give them a call, which I don't know if he did or not. But another hour goes by, still nothing. Now, it's like 8 o'clock. I'm getting really nervous because, when I know I'm not going to get that medicine, I know I'm going to be sick. My anxiety start picking up. So the CO was going by again. This is around 8:30, I think. So I'm banging on the cell door. I say, hey, CO. And when I did that, the window in the cell door, which is like 4 inches thick glass. I mean, it's freaking thick. You can't break this stuff. It cracked. Now, there's no way I could have done that myself. People are like, oh, would you punch the window? No, even if I did punch the window, you can't break that. You need something like a metal or something really, really hard and strong to break that, to even crack it. You can't break it. So sure enough, when the CO was doing his rounds, he looked in the window and he said, hey, what happened to the window? I said, I was trying to get I apologize, CO. I was trying to get your attention. I was really polite. I was really apologetic. I said, I apologize. I was trying to get your attention and the window cracked. And he laughed. He laughed like a sinister laugh, like, and he walked away. I'm like, that's not good. So, this is like now 9 o'clock or so. The lights are already off in the unit because they turn them off like 9:30. All of a sudden, all the lights in the unit go on. I'm like, God, I hope it's not for me. Sure enough, I see like 10 or 12 corrections officers come in, and they got all kinds of like protective gear on, like masks, helmets, like, kind of like the riot, like what you see in a prison riot, like the riot squad, like all the gear that they wear, they all had that on. And I'm like, this can't be because of me. And sure enough, this short little CO, stocky CO, had a skull cap on, comes up and starts yelling at me, and he had a white shirt on, so he was like a lieutenant. He's like the supervisor, like the head guy on that shift. And he comes up to the window and he yells my name, and he says, are you gonna cuff up like are you the one who broke my window? And I was like, yeah, listen, I apologize. I told the other CO, I said, I was just trying to get his attention, the window cracked. He goes, you gonna cuff up like a bitch? Or are you gonna go hard? And I'm like, what? I'm like, what? Cuff up like a bitch or go hard? What do you mean? And he said it again. And I'm like, so this guy's asking if I'm gonna fight all these COs or if I'm just gonna cuff up. And I didn't want to get in any trouble. I'm a camper. I'm a minimum security camper in a maximum security prison. I'm like, I'm gonna cuff up. What do you mean? I don't. And he's calling me all these names, like, bitch and, whatever, pussy, whatever. And, excuse my language. And I'm like, man, and I could hear the inmate next door to me is telling me through the vent. He goes, don't fight it. He goes, they'll put another charge on you. They'll put another charge on you. And I'm like, all right, I wasn't going to fight him anyways. I'm going to take on 10 guys with riot gear on. So they opened the door. Well, first, I should say, they made me put my hands through the hole in the door, the wicket, they call it. And they cuffed me behind my back. And then they pushed me, and then they, outside, they told me to walk to the back of the cell. And then they come in, they open the cell door, they come in, and they start beating the shit out of me. I mean, they weren't punching me in the face, but they threw me against the wall, hitting me in my abdomen, everything, everywhere but my face. Other than the fact that they smacked my face against the wall when they came in there. So they yank me out of there, and then they do the same thing. They throw me against the wall outside of the cell. They kick my legs out, spread them like they were going to search me, and my hands are behind my back, so I fell. They yanked me back up, and then they start patting me down. And they said, "What do you got in your cell that you broke the window?" I said, "I nothing." I said, I was I was banging on the cell door to get the CO's attention, the window cracked. And they didn't believe me, so they tossed my cell. They threw everything, not that there was anything in there. Threw everything all over the place. And at the time, all I had for property was, what the prison issued me as far as clothing, my blankets, whatever, and the books that my family had sent me. Along with, I'd start writing a diary kind of thing on paper that they gave me with a pencil. So that was all over the place. And then they yanked me out of the unit, and they brought me into this this little area outside of the unit, and they cuffed me up with these other cuffs on my ankles. And these two really big COs, the biggest ones I've seen since I was there, started walking me away. And they're like, "Oh, you really messed up now. Probably get another couple of years added on to your thing." I'm thinking, what the hell are you talking about? They're trying to scare me. And they're looking at me, and they're like, "Oh, look at this guy. He's got no tattoos or anything. He must be some kind of pedophile, gay guy." I'm thinking, because I don't have tattoos, I'm a pedophile and I'm gay. And I didn't say anything. I knew if I said anything that it's just gonna antagonize, it's gonna make them go harder on me. So I just kept my mouth shut. And they walked me down to what ended up being the SHU, the Segregated Housing Unit. So I go in there, and there's probably 5 COs waiting inside the SHU for me. Again, it's 10:30 at night, so not a lot's going on. Everybody's already in their cell, locked down. The whole prison's on lockdown anyways. So they throw me in a holding cell, and they tell me to take all my clothes off. And so I'm buck naked. This is after they put me in the cell and uncuffed me. And then they gave me they could throw in this plastic bag that had some clothing in it. And the clothing was looked like hospital scrubs, but it wasn't even made of that material. It was like paper. It was kind of like a tissue paper. It was paper. It was very thin, just something that would cover your body. It doesn't provide any warmth or anything. So I had a pair of pants like that, a shirt, kind of like the way a scrub shirt is, doctor scrubs or whatever, hospital scrubs. A pair of these mesh things that were net, that were supposed to be for my boxers, I guess. And then no socks or anything, just these booties, the kind of things that you would wear if you were, working in a clean room or something like that. When you're, or the type of things people could put on your shoes if you're walking in a new house or something like that. That's what I had for my feet. So they sat me in there, for an hour and a half, and they started asking me all these questions and this and that. And a couple of the COs were like, "What did you do? I don't understand. How'd you get?" And I told them, and they couldn't believe that they were going this hard on me because of what happened. And you could tell some of them believed me, some of them thought I was a troublemaker and that I broke the door on purpose, or went on the door on purpose, which I didn't. So one CO comes up and he's like, "Well, we got to put you in a cell. The only thing is you're a minimum security inmate, and all the cells are full right now. We can't put you with another inmate because they're all maximum security inmates." I was like, "All right, well, I didn't know what he was trying to say." So he said, "But what we're going to do is we're going to have to put you in the observation cell just for tonight." And I was like, "All right, whatever we got to do." Come to find out, the observation cell is where they put the psych patients, the guys that are having psychotic episodes, this and that, suicide, trying to kill themselves, whatever. You go in the cell, and there's a concrete block in the middle of the room. That's a rectangle block about 3 feet off the floor. That's your bed. And then you can see there's harnesses or O-rings that are anchored into each corner of that concrete block. And that's so they could restrain inmates down, in a 4-point restraint. They didn't do that to me because obviously that's not why I was being put in there. But that cell also had lights which never went off. They stayed on 24 hours a day. And video cameras in the corner to watch whoever was in there the whole time. So, AKA the observation cell. So I was like, all right, it is what it is. I'll be here, for a day, whatever. They didn't provide me with anything to lay down on and sleep with. All they gave me was a roll of toilet paper, an envelope that had a toothbrush in it, little half toothbrush, some toothpaste powder, not even toothpaste, it was powder that you mix with water to make toothpaste, a little pencil, and a couple pieces of paper. And I didn't know what the paper stuff was for at the time, but I guess it's to write notes to the COs, because if you need to ask them something, you're supposed to put a note outside your door to let them, know what you need or something like that. So I was freezing, it's early in December, no blanket, no sleeping pad, no pillow. All I had was a roll of toilet paper, which I used as my pillow. Other than that, I laid down on the concrete, it was made out of like cinder blocks and concrete. That's what I laid on. Because the light wouldn't go off, I had to do something to block out the light. So I took the envelope that was like, a security envelope, so you couldn't see through it. So it was like opaque, so it blocked the light. So I using my brain, I took that envelope and I made like a light shade out of it for my eyes. And I took a piece of my paper pants, and made like a headband to tie on each side of the envelope, to make a headband with a light shade. And I put that around my head. That at least blocked out the light so I could, try to fall asleep, which obviously wasn't easy to do. Number one, they didn't give me my medication, so I was already starting to feel sick. Number two, the lights were on. Number three, they brought in some guy in the observation cell that was right next door, because there's two of them, and he was screaming and yelling because he was supposed to be in that type of cell because he was a psych patient, and they had him in restraints to the concrete block. He was actually screaming because he had to go to the bathroom, and they had him strapped down to the freaking concrete block, so he pissed his pants. So that was one of the worst nights of my life, and unfortunately, that was only the beginning of my SHU experience. I ended up staying in that cell for 7 days until they finally transferred me to a regular cell in the SHU, not in the regular prison, in the SHU. After 3 days, they did give me a blanket and a sleeping pad and a pillow, but that's it. I still had the same paper clothing. I still didn't have any shoes. No soap, no shampoo. They didn't let me take me out for a shower for 7 days, and it was rough. The only good thing about it while I was there was I was able to get mail, because they can't prevent you from getting mail. And my wife sent me a couple letters, and I had gotten. That was the only thing that got me through that, because I was in a bad place at that point, because you can't imagine when you feel like you need help. You need someone to help you, and no one's there to help. All they want to do is hurt you. And that's, at least I got that letter. I knew there's somebody out there that still cares about me, that, you know, would help me if they could, and they're going to help me. And this is only temporary. So it reminded me of that. But that was like the worst time ever in prison in my life ever. It was, I hate to think about it now. You know, sometimes I do have, you know, I'll have nightmares about it. But, you know, these are the types of things that these guys in there go through every day. Some of them, maybe they deserve it. I don't think I sure as hell don't think I did, but that's what goes on in there every day. And, you know, I don't ever want to go through that again. So, something so small, you know, resulted in something so serious. Changed the whole trajectory of my incarceration. I mean, everything from that point on, and you'll see as I started going through my videos how it affected, you know, my incarceration, my sentence, because it changed everything. My incarceration could have been shorter, easier, just a lot of things, just because of that one thing, that window that cracked. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. I know for me, especially when I first wrote it, when I was doing my blog website, it's therapeutic for me to get it off my chest and to talk about it. But, you know, thanks for tuning in, and I will be following up with a lot of other, you know, interesting videos that I think you really enjoy. So please like and subscribe the videos, and keep coming back. Tell your friends, and I'll see you soon. Take care.